Let me say something that took me longer than I'd like to admit to fully understand. Most men don't get walked over because they're weak. They get walked over because they were too unclear, too accommodating, and too afraid to set the tone early. At the beginning of a relationship, the patterns you allow quietly become the patterns you live with. And once something becomes normal, it's very hard to suddenly change it without friction. This isn't about being harsh or controlling, it's about self-respect and clarity. Healthy women don't actually want a man they can steamroll, even if it looks that way in the short term. What they respond to, long term, is calm, grounded boundaries. The kind that say, without drama, this is how I move. So if you want a relationship where you're respected, these are boundaries you need to set early, not after problems start. The first set of boundaries is boundaries around your time. I've seen this one play out so many times. A guy meets a woman he really likes, and suddenly his entire schedule starts bending around her. He cancels gym sessions, pushes back work, drops plans with friends, all just to be available whenever she's free. In the moment, it feels like you're being attentive, like you're showing interest, but over time, it can actually backfire. Here's why. When your time has no structure, it subtly communicates that your life doesn't have strong priorities. And most women, even if they don't say it out loud, are paying attention to that. They're watching to see if you're a man who has his own rhythm, his own focus, his own direction. You don't have to be rigid. You don't have to act busy for the sake of it. But there should be moments where the answer is calmly, I can't that day, let's do another time. When you set this tone early, something interesting happens. She starts fitting into your life naturally instead of unconsciously expecting your life to revolve around her availability. And ironically, that often makes you more attractive, not less. Because you're showing and not just telling that your time actually means something. Number 2, boundaries around respect. Respect problems rarely start loud. They start small and a little bit playful. Maybe it's a joke that goes slightly too far in front of people. Maybe she talks over you in a group setting. Maybe there's a bit of teasing that leaves you feeling off, even if you laugh it off in the moment. Most men ignore these early moments because they don't want to seem sensitive or dramatic. I get it. Nobody wants to make a big deal out of nothing. But here's what I've learned. The patterns you tolerate early are the patterns that usually grow. If something genuinely rubs you the wrong way, the move is not to explode. It's to calmly address it the first or second time it happens. And the tone matters. You don't come in heated. You don't lecture. You just say it plainly. Hey, I don't really like that. Let's keep it respectful. Most emotionally healthy women will adjust quickly when the boundary is clear and calm. But if you keep laughing off things that actually bother you, don't be surprised when it becomes the normal dynamic later. 3. Boundaries around money. This one gets a lot of guys in quiet trouble. Early in dating, there's often this pressure, sometimes self-imposed, to impress. So a man starts spending a little more than he normally would. Nicer restaurants, extra gifts, covering everything without really thinking it through. Again, it feels good in the moment. You want to show generosity. Totally fair. The problem starts when the giving isn't coming from a relaxed place, but from pressure. Because over time, if you're stretching yourself financially just to maintain the vibe, resentment starts building under the surface. You might not even admit it to yourself at first, but it shows up later in small frustrations. A healthier approach is simple. Be generous but stay grounded. Spend within your real comfort zone. Don't create a lifestyle in month 1 that you can't sustain in month 6. When you move this way from the beginning, the relationship stays based on reality instead of performance, and trust me, that saves a lot of quiet tension down the road. 4. Boundaries around your personal space. Early relationships can get intense fast. Constant texting, constant updates, falling asleep on the phone, and seeing each other every free moment. Look, some of that excitement is normal in the beginning, but if there's zero breathing room, things can get heavy quicker than people expect. I've seen situations where a guy slowly stops doing anything solo because the relationship becomes all-consuming. Then a few months later, when he finally tries to pull back and reclaim some space, it creates confusion or even tension. Not because space is wrong, but because the rhythm was never set early. It's much healthier when, from the start, your life still has independent movement. You still have your gym time, your friends, your quiet evenings, your own routines. That way, time together feels chosen and fresh instead of expected and constant. Space, when handled right, actually keeps attraction healthier long-term. 5. Boundaries around chasing her when she pulls back. This one right here quietly traps a lot of men. Things are going well, the energy feels mutual, and then one day she pulls back a little. Maybe replies get slower. Maybe she seems a bit more distant. And a lot of guys' first instinct is to lean in harder. More texts, more checking in, more trying to fix the distance. I understand the impulse. I've seen it, and honestly, a lot of men have lived it. Your brain goes, wait, something changed. Let me close the gap. But here's the thing most guys learn late. When a woman creates space, chasing usually makes the distance worse, not better. It shifts the dynamic. Suddenly, you're the one overextending, while she's the one regulating the emotional temperature of the relationship. A healthier boundary is emotional steadiness. If she pulls back slightly, you don't panic and flood the space. You stay warm, but you also stay grounded in your own life. You give the energy room to breathe instead of trying to force it back to where it was. Women, especially emotionally healthy ones, tend to respect a man who can stay centered when the rhythm shifts. But when you immediately go into pursuit mode every time she creates space, it can quietly train the dynamic in a way that drains you over time. At the end of the day, boundaries aren't about pushing a woman away. They're about showing up as someone who is clear, steady, and self-respecting from the beginning. When these lines are quietly set early, most relationships flow much more naturally. Because fixing boundaries later is always harder than setting them right the first time.